In the dark shadows, in the white cold, fearlessly we search for knowledge new and old. We drink the strong spirits and read the ancient tomes. The order of the Abracast. We are the brave and the bold. The Abracast. Occult, history, conspiracy, and violence.
The reset. The reset. The reset. The reset. Set.
The best way for us to combat crime and be prepared for worldwide emergencies is to work together. From now on, we'll be Super Friends.
With the Super Friends working as a team, we'll be wiped out one by one.
That's precisely why I've asked you all here today. They probably can wipe us out, unless we two form a bond to work together. The 13 of us will form the most powerful and sinister group the world has ever seen. From now on, we'll be known as the Legion of Doom.
Deep within a bleak and dismal swamp, hidden beneath its murky waters, lies the headquarters of the most sinister villains of all time. The Legion of Doom.
The meeting will come to order. The Legion of Doom is now in session. It is the purpose of the Legion to align our infamous forces against the powers of good and defeat them, leaving us, the rulers of the world. To do this, we have gathered together the most ruthless villains on Earth.
Hello from the World Economic Forum in Geneva. My name is Adrian Monk and I'll be moderating today's session. Welcome to this virtual meeting which has brought together leaders and stakeholders from across the global community for our COVID action platform. Today this meeting serves as a launch pad for the next chapter, the Great Reset. But to get us underway, let's hear from the forum's executive chairman and founder, Professor Klaus Schwab.
Thank you, Adrian. It is obvious that we are in the midst of the most severe crisis the world has experienced since World War II. 75 years ago, countries and people came together to shape the post-war global order, which brought us decades of peace, increased global cooperation, and prosperity to hundreds of millions of people around the world. The COVID-19 crisis has shown us that our old systems are not fit anymore for the 21st century. It has laid bare the fundamental lack of social cohesion, fairness, inclusion, and equality. Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight the real virus, but to shape the system for the need for the post-corona era. We have a choice: to remain passive, which would lead to the amplification of many of the trends we see today. Polarization, nationalism, racism, and ultimately increased social unrest and conflict. But we have another choice. We can build a new social contract, particularly integrating the next generation. We can change our behavior to be in harmony with nature again. And we can make sure that the technologies of the fourth industrial revolution are best utilized to provide us with better lives. In short, we need a great reset. We have to mobilize all constituents of our global society to work together. We must not miss this unique window of opportunity.
I send you my warmest greetings and best wishes on the launch of the Great Reset. The COVID-19 pandemic is causing enormous human suffering and economic hardship. A microscopic virus has closed down entire countries and economies. But this fragility is not confined to health systems. Runaway climate change, unsustainable levels of inequality, and the lawlessness of cyberspace are all warning signs that we must heed. The Great Reset is a welcome recognition that this human tragedy must be a wake-up call. It is imperative that we reimagine, rebuild, redesign, reinvigorate, and rebalance our world. Rebalancing investment, harnessing science and technology, and advancing the transition to net zero emissions, all elements of the Great Reset, are fundamental to building the future we need.
It is time, therefore, to align sustainable solutions with funding in a way that can transform the marketplace. This would be the most dramatic act of responsible leadership ever seen by the global private sector. We have a golden opportunity to seize something good from this crisis. Its unprecedented shockwaves may well make people more receptive to big visions of change. And as we move from rescue to recovery, therefore, we have a unique but rapidly shrinking window of opportunity to learn lessons and reset ourselves on a more sustainable path. Encourage us all to think big and act now.
Nothing will stop us now. With our combined powers of evil, we must pledge to wipe out the Super Friends. One for all, and all for doom. One for all, and all for doom. One for all, and all for doom.
Okay, welcome to Red Horse Radio Abracast. This is the exclusive part of the podcast. There's no commercials. It's basically me just delving into some of the weirder topics that we get into on the main show. And today we're going to talk about the Fugo, or Operation Fugo. Means fire balloon, balloon bomb, or my favorite is the Windshift weapon. So what happened, a lot of people don't understand World War II or what started it, but one of the problems with Japan was we were in an economic war with Japan, and we did some crazy stuff to them economically. which caused them to react politically and militarily. But so one of the things that happened, Pearl Harbor happened, and there was the West Coast kind of scaled up in paranoia, right? And while the Japanese were trying to figure out how to, like, different ways to attack us or whatever, they decided that they were going to do this, this operation, this Fugo. And what it is they attached a hydrogen balloon with, it's like this chandelier looking device that hung underneath it with sandbags. Well, there was like different tiers of wheels with sandbags hanging from it. And they had to drop the sandbags, and it was all tied into an altimeter. And what they did is they launched them from Japan and they shipped them on the jet stream. We're all familiar with the jet stream nowadays, but back then, we didn't have jets. We probably didn't even know about the, I'm sorry about this. We probably didn't even know about the jet stream, but, so they would launch these balloons from mountains in Japan. They launched, they estimate that they launched, geez, why can't I find it right now? Sabotage. My name is John Towers, and this is Red Horse Radio, the Abracast. The Abracast is the exclusive portion of Red Horse Radio, where we expound and elaborate on stickier, weird, or occult ideas brought up on the main show. So this is a companion piece to episode 182 with Jesse Saxon, when we were talking about Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, drilling, and training, and how it affects, like, how what your body does affects your mind. And I brought up this social psychologist named Amy Cuddy. And Amy Cuddy does this great presentation where she talks about how your body posture or pose, how you hold your body before judgmental situations affects the chemical balance in your brain, I guess, like the hormonal kind of thing going on. So I thought I'd just take a second to expound on this and make it the Abracast show, and just kind of like go through Amy Cuddy's presentation and just kind of bust it out for you guys, right? So she talks about a lot about body language, and she said, of course, there's studies saying that body language is most of our communication. Like when you're talking face to face with someone, the words that are coming out of your mouth don't really mean a whole lot, but the micro expressions flickering across your face, the way that you're holding your body, the where your arms are, where you are, how you're standing, all figure into the message that you're putting through with your communication. And she posits that other people's body language, you'll see that, like, when people are talking to each other, sometimes they will mimic themselves. Like, I remember when Jesse was down here talking on the podcast, and we went up to afterwards, and we were bullshitting. We were standing there, and we both had like this alpha kind of thing. We were both sitting there with our arms crossed, looking at each other, talking to each other. And there's nothing wrong with that. But when you come at it from like a position where you understand what your body language means, it gets very interesting when you start busting on that. And you'll see there's people like that talk about like presidents and how they shake hands or how they walk. There's that famous thing with GW and Putin, and it looks like they're like jog racing to the office, or like shaking hand, like how weird that is. So people are really kind of like bent up on how this body language affects us. And Amy Cuddy's thing is that when you're doing your body language, when you're paying attention to it, it's not just affecting the other dude that you're communicating with. It actually affects your brain. It actually affects the hormones and stuff that you have going on inside you. And she states a couple different kind of things. Like in the animal kingdom, there's a power dynamic, and that power dynamic is to open up and to expand. And the thing that she uses is, you know, when she was teaching, or when she is teaching, I guess, and she notices like females in the room are like lilting, and they're like holding up their elbow, and they're making themselves real small, like when they participate. And the whole kind of framework for this is that in her class, participation is like half the grade, so you have to participate. So it's a matter of how you choose to participate, right? I'm sorry for popping in this mic. I don't know my shit. God damn it. So she said that females that are forced to participate, they're like lilting, and they're like holding up their little elbows, and they're like making themselves real small. And where guys are participating, they're like huge, and they're like, ooh, Mr. Cotta. And, you know, obviously she says that she's interested in the power dynamic. So of course she would start looking at this kind of stuff. She's like, guys are huge, and they do this, and they make themselves huge and big, and they wave their arms, and they sit with their legs crossed, like, the bull cross, and they, do this, and women like shrink down, and they're like sitting there like on their purses and stuff. And, so she relates this to the animal kingdom, and she says, like, when gorillas take the alpha position, they become huge, and cobras become, you know, when they are there, they become huge to show their power, right? And one of the fascinating things that she talks about is this other power position where she calls pride. And what it is when a marathon runner hits the ribbon and breaks it, or a race runner hits the ribbon and breaks it, and they raise their hands up, and they kind of look to the sky, and they're like, yeah, and they're smiling. She states that, you know, football players do this, and soccer players do this, and like everyone who's in this kind of position does this. And she says that there's been studies done showing that folks who are born blind, when they win at something, they'll do this. Like it's just there, like it's like in their genes, I guess, or in their genetics where they do this. And then she juxtaposes this by saying, like, when you make yourself small, you're kind of disconnecting yourself. And she relates this all to chemicals. She relates this to cortisol and testosterone. Cortisol manages your, let me see if I get this right. Cortisol manages your stress, I guess, and testosterone manages your I don't want to say leadership, aggressiveness. Yeah. So cortisol, yeah, right. Because when you're a leader, you don't want a leader who's like big on aggressiveness and susceptible to stressors, right? When you have a leader, you want them to be aggressive, but not so reactionary. Yeah. Look at that. I just remembered all that. All right. Let's see. So what Amy did was she took a group of folks. She talks about putting a pencil in your teeth to make you smile, and she says how that makes you happy. And then she decides to test pretending to be powerful can change your mind. The higher power leader is dominant, but not stress reactive. Within the animal kingdom, an individual takes an alpha role is suddenly, within a few days, their cortisol is down and their testosterone is up, balancing it. That's fascinating to me. There's this idea that micro adjustments in your body pose can affect your brain / hormones study. So what they did is they get a group of students in, and they collect saliva to see what hormones are running around in there. And then they make them for 2 minutes pose in these high power poses. They make half of them pose in the high power pose. I'm sure it's way more scientific than this. They probably had half of them in the high power pose, half of them in a low power pose, and half of them just sitting around with their thumbs up their ass. I don't know. But the ones that did the high power poses, the ones that did the high power poses for 2 minutes, she sent in to do what's called a social, it's a social threat or an evaluative situation. She chose a job interview. So they had these guys looking at videotapes, and the videotape people didn't know what they were looking at, and the students who were doing the tests didn't know what they were doing. They didn't explain what the poses were. They didn't explain what they were doing. They said, you're going to job interview and you're going to have to do this thing for 2 minutes before you get to it. The job interviews were for 5 minutes. So, student shows up and they said, we're going to put you in this power pose for 2 minutes, send you in there and see how you do. And then they had coders watching the tapes, and the coders who were watching the tapes, who were trained to be, non-judgmental, I guess. I don't know how that works. But they scored them. They scored the judge, or the folks coming in to do the test. And, all the time they scored the people that did the high power poses higher and the people that did the low power poses lower, saying, I think this guy's more trustworthy and I'm going to give him a job. Or I think this guy he looks tired. He's probably going to be late. I don't know what it was. So the idea that this thing does is, if you stand there with your feet shoulder width apart and your hands on your hips, looking up for 2 minutes before you go to a job interview, that is actually going to increase your chances of exuding confidence. And they said this works for all kind of stuff. They say it, Amy Cuddy claims that, it makes you believe that you'll win in a gambling contest, more. She says that it improves dating situations. So it's not a cheat. They call it like a life hack or whatever. But since watching this thing with Amy Cuddy, I do this all the time. I do it all the time. Before I sit down and step onto this microphone, I'll lean back in my dentist chair here, and I'll put my hands behind my back, and I'll fold my legs up, and I'll just take up as much space. She also does this thing about where people with a high power dynamic, when they interact with folks, they will take a lower or a low power dynamic. And she shows a couple pictures of politicians, and like Angela Merkel sitting there with her hands on her hips, and whoever she's talking to is like shrinking away from her. And, maybe you should just look at this like in everyday life and just think about it. Don't take my word for it. Find Amy Cuddy's TED Talks. It's on Netflix in a collection called Life Hacks or something like this. It's on YouTube, so find it there. And just if you guys have anything to say about it, let me know, because I'm very interested in it. And I use this, like I said, I use this technique all the time. Whenever I have a meeting with someone, I'm in the fucking bathroom stall posing, doing the Wonder Woman pose, psyching myself up. So I'm interested in hearing everyone's thoughts about this. And this is Red Horse Radio. This is Red Horse Radio, the Abracast. And thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Tune in for next week. I got I don't know what to be talking about. It's gonna be crazy, I'm sure, for whatever it is. And this has been a talk about Amy Cuddy and body languaging yourself into a better job.
Your body is your temple, so let's make sure you variety of cool occult themed t-shirts and other merch like stickers, wall art, mugs, and more. Visit the storefront on Abracast.com.
Want to get in there? Hey, hello everybody. I'm equipment. I'm John Towers, and this is the exclusive portion of Red Horse Radio. It's a little segment I like to call the Abracast. This is where we get deep into occult, weirdo kind of stuff that comes up on the regular show. On the regular show this week, I was speaking to Marta Mazzoni from martaonthemove.com, and she's a treasure hunter, amateur treasure hunter, and scuba diver and snorkeler. And she was talking to me about stuff that she found at the bottom of the ocean. I asked her if she'd ever heard of the Atikythera device mechanism, the Atikythera mechanism, and she hadn't. So I dropped a little bit of knowledge, and I thought this would be a great topic for the Abracast. So here we go. Like I said, I'm John Towers. You can find the stigmatastudios.com, redhorseradio.com, yada, yada, yada. If you're listening to this, the chances are you already know all that shit. So let's get some new shit for you to know. So this thing was found, the Atikythera device was found, mechanism, God, I keep fucking that up. The Atikythera mechanism was found in April of 1900 by a bunch of sponge divers. These dudes were diving for sponges. And they found bronze statues, marble statues, pottery, glassware, coins, and the mechanism. They were diving 45 meters, which is about 148 feet off the Atikythera shipwreck, which is off of the point of Galfadea. So they found this thing, they drug it up, and it just looked like a box and a bunch of fucking box parts covered by like sponges and algae and bullshit. But for some reason they were like, hey, this looks cool, I'm gonna bring it up. And they brought it up and they gave it to this museum, and it just sat there for like a bunch of huge time, like 70 fucking years, right? Because in 1971 somebody x-rayed this fucking thing. They x-rayed the mechanism and all the other fragments, and they discovered that it was a series of interlocking fragments of gears and wheels. So think of like a gigantic Swiss watch, right? They decided that it was, well, they had ascertained that it was the first analog computer in the whole wide world. And you might be asking, well, Johnny, what does that mean? Old Uncle Johnny X, what does that mean? I know you're curious about it, Ed. So what this thing does is it tracks and predicts the sun, the moon, the phases of the moon, eclipses, the positions of the visible planets. Now, the reason that we have to make that assertion is because back when this thing was made, there were no telescopes, right? So it's only like the planets we could see with our naked eyes, which is like up to Jupiter, I believe. Yeah, Jupiter. That sounds right. It keeps track of another wheel of it keeps track of the Egyptian months, which actually is a lunar calendar, which is different. Here in the West, we have a solar calendar. We do everything based on the position of the sun. Over there, in the East, especially in the ew, gross. Bless you, Aid. Especially when you get involved in Islamic and Muslim calendars, it's all lunar, and also it creeps into like this weird 13. Bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you, bless you, honey. It also gets into this weird realm where there's this extra 13 month, which is called a Fucus, which I did a show on last month. I don't know. You might want to check it out. It's the Lost Zodiac of Fucus. So look, man, I'm cutting edge. Yeah, Yeah, Egyptian months, zodiacs, and it also keeps track of Olympiads, which is weird because you're like, what does that mean? What does that have to do with anything? And really, I gotta turn this. He's just hitting microphone 3 with his tail, like over and over. So it also keeps track of Olympiads. It has a whole separate gear that just keeps track of the gap between the Olympic Games. So scientists date this thing between 150 and 100 BCE, which is before the Common Era. So this is like super old. Like people think of like the oldest computer, and you're like, oh, it's the Commodore 64, or oh, it's Simon Says. No, it goes way before that. Oh, it's the Apple II. Nope, it goes way before that. So if you guys want to know more about this Atikythera device or mechanism, feel free to do a lot of research. There is a lot of research, and it's also contested, especially the debate on the origin date. However, being a sort of a layman, I think that any debate on the origination date of this thing is outstanding because it's so far above or below, I guess, what you think it should be. So, check it out. Check your own shit out. Check it out, man. That's what I'm saying. Check it out. You know what I'm saying? This is John Towers. This is my lawfully evil best friend, Cat Edgar, and you've been listening to the Abracast. Thank you. Oh, God. Oh, Jesus. He's just gonna... The day there was the Ottoman Empire, which is historically called the Turkish Empire, and it lasted it stretched all the way from almost the Holy Roman Empire to the outskirts of Vienna, which is where our topic takes place. In 1683, on September 11th, 1683, the Battle of Vienna happened. And it didn't all just happen on that day, obviously, but it did take place. But to set the scene a little bit, back in 1529, almost a century earlier, there was the siege of Vienna. All right, so this is where these Islamic the Ottoman Empire, stretching out through Vienna. They were looking to, now you have to understand, the Ottoman Empire wanted a caliphate that stretched over the whole world, and they were expanding. They were expanding through Central Europe, and they wanted desperately to capture the city of Vienna. Obviously, it has a lot of strategic points of view, and it also has a nice population of people to enslave. All right, so what happens at the Siege of Vienna is the Polish and the Transylvanian and the Hungarian people defended, and the Ottoman Empire was driven away. All right, so that culminated and kind of got to a boiling point until they tried the expansion again, and this time they expanded. Like I said, 1683. They expanded, and they're trying to take the gates of Vienna again. So inward pressed the Grand Vizier Kara Mustafa Pasha into, or I should say, approaching Vienna, and the Polish king Jan Sobieski aligned himself with Pope Innocent XI, and they formed something called the Holy League. And basically it was the Habsburgs and the various armies of the Vatican, and they pushed through and they created defensive position. When they were working on their defensive positions, they only the Lithuanian, Poland, the Holy League only had a couple of days to set up their defensive positions, but defensive positions, I mean, the more time the better as it comes to doing this. The burden comes upon the invading force, and Kara Mustafa Pasha he wasn't very well organized as he come in. I mean, he had a ton of people. So the Holy League dug in, got their stuff together, and they prepared for a siege. And when the siege happened, these Ottomans used, you kind of got to give it to them. They used some combat engineering techniques. They were digging under lines instead of wasting their gunpowder on cannon. They were digging under and blowing up in entrenchments and walls that way. Which, what you got to do. If you got guys willing to carry the bombs. And ironically, that was not part of the problem. They had plenty of guys willing to carry them, but on the other side, the Venetians had they had spies, they had moles, and the Ottomans, their final play to end the siege was to blow this wall down and rush in. And they need to get this done before Jan Sobieski brought his army in. He was on his way there. He wasn't even in the battle yet, and he had these guys, these heavy armored cavalry called the Winged Hussars that had these gigantic lances, and he was on his way, and the Grand Vizier needed to get the wall down and end the siege so they could set up counterattack positions for when Sobieski got there. But what happened is the Venetian moles, detected the explosives and disarmed them. So when the Grand Vizier went to go blow the wall to make his final move, the checkmate. Once the wall was down, Venice would have been theirs. Nothing. The explosives never happened. Well, guess what? Then Sobieski shows up with his Winged Hussars and his gigantic army, and just crushed the Ottomans. He destroyed the Ottomans. He crushed them so bad that their expansion ended. They never were able to rebound. After the battle, Sobieski paraphrased Caesar's famous line, the Veni Vidi Vici, by saying Venimus Venimus Jus Viticus. That's we came, we saw, and God conquered. He destroyed he destroyed the Ottomans. The Ottomans, I mean, the empire didn't go away, but it receded for 16 years before it did go away. They were never able to claim Venice. Or Vienna, I should say. They were never able to claim Vienna. The aftermath, the statistics were the Ottomans lost at least 40,000 men dead and wounded in the fighting, plus 20,000 men captured and all of their cannon. Okay, so the Holy League, on the other side, the good guys, approximately 4,500 dead and wounded. So, I mean, it was a totally lopsided victory and crushing defeat. And all of that happened, the defeat happened on September 11th, 1683. I'm not sure, I don't think that they know that it was such a crushing defeat right away, because they turned around and started rebuilding the walls. They were starting to rebuild the damaged fortifications. They were moving the captured cannon into their own defensive positions to beef up, and they were expecting an immediate counter strike, which proved laughably, hilariously unnecessary. And after that happened, after the victory at Vienna, Prince Eugene of Savoy reconquered Hungary. And what did the Grand Vizier get he survived, of course. He survived. But in December of that same year, 1683, on December 25th, 1683, Mustafa Pasha was executed. And the manner in which he was executed was with a silk rope. And they had like 5 guys on each side pulling this silk rope, killing him. So it was pretty gruesome way to go, I suppose. You know, most people never heard of this episode, and to me, I'm like, why isn't there movies about this? It's like, it's crazy. Anyhow, but there are a bunch of there's a cultural legacy left from this religiously speaking. The Catholic Church has celebrated a feast on September 12th, the Holy Name of Mary, and that is because King Sobieski left his troops under the protection of the Blessed Virgin Mary. So that feast day is actually in remembrance of the battle and defeat of Muslim forces. Musical legacies, as far as the cymbals, triangles, and bass drum, they said that the Ottomans ran away from Vienna so fast they left their band equipment. So, they walked out and were like, "Hey, what's this bass drum all about?" And that's how the Western world, I guess, was able to get that. And then a legend as far as food's concerned is we think that this is where the French came up with the idea of the croissant. Another legend is that the first bagel was invented as being a gift from King Jan Sobieski to commemorate his victory over the Ottomans. So it seems like a lot of fun stuff attributed to this battle. So I know, like I said before, a lot of people have never heard of this, and I think a lot of people should, because it's sort of, if you Google search why terrorists attack on 9/11, you get like a bunch of loose change, like, I hate American nonsense, but really it's the reason that terrorists attack on 9/11 is because they want to remember, and they want revenge from what happened to these Ottomans. They got broke, son. So that's what's going on. And look, September 11th, 2001, we didn't get the wake-up call. September 11th, 2012, not only did we not get a wake-up call, but most people don't even realize still that this was a terrorist attack. So, this is me telling you what's going on. The problem is we think that this is like something that's really been going on for 10 years. The other side's been fighting this war since the time of Abraham. I mean, they've been at it for a long time. They're doing the long game, and we can't even figure out that it's a short game. A lot of us don't even refuse, to even see, terrorism for what it is. Anyhow, this is September. What I'm saying is September 11th isn't just this.
Take control of your destiny. Understand your past, put your present in context, and know your future with a twist. Check out the designs and watch the videos about Abracast Tarot Card Deck on Abracast.com. When you order a deck, get a free exclusive bonus tarot card. Also, sign into the mailing list to get a free ebook about the Abracast Tarot Card Deck and other bonus content. Visit the storefront on Abracast.com.
Wow. Okay. So before I let you go, I was hoping that you don't have to do the whole thing, but if you could just break down like a little piece of I Am the Walrus for us, like some of the fun stuff.
Well, I can do this very easily, and I actually am happy to, because the walrus is such a strange storyline, and Lennon claimed that he wrote it under the influence of LSD. And I read a comment that he made, which he says, when he wrote the song, he didn't understand that the Lewis Carroll's poem, The Walrus and the Carpenter, was really a comment on capitalism. And I said to myself, wait a second, I know that poem. That is not a comment on capitalism. I mean, this is a preposterous. What is Lennon talking about? So anyway, the thing that that makes it easy kind of to understand is that it starts out, I am you and you and me, and we are all together, right? Now this line comes from a song called Marching to Pretoria, and it was sung by the Boers during the Boer War, right? Now, they had this song that they created. The Boers sang it on their epic march from Cape Town to Pretoria. Everything went bad for them. They were captured and placed into the infamous British concentration camp, Camp Irene. And it was there that many Boer children were killed, right? This concentration camp was the subject of many analysis later on, and it was all very bad. There was women and children who died inside of this very first concentration camp. So Lennon starts out the song, I am you, you are me, and we are all together. Direct paraphrase of the line from the beginning of Marching to Pretoria. But now the next line, he says, see how they run like pigs from a gun, see how they fly. Now, being a very adept literary critic, I look at this line and I go, well, this is probably a comment on the line above this line. Because when I write stuff, normally the line I'm writing is related to the line above. Right. So this is the depth. You can see the depth of my analysis here. It's like, I am you, you are me, and we are all together. See how they run like pigs from a gun, see how they fly. And I go, well, how could that line relate to the line above? Well, a boar is a homophone for pig, right? See how they run like boars from a gun, see how they fly.
Nice.
Right? So that's what Lennon is saying here. He's saying, I am you, you are me, we are all together. This is the Boers fleeing the Freemason British Army. See how they run like pigs from a gun, like boars from a gun. See how they fly. And now Lennon breaks into the warbling, I'm crying. I won't even attempt to hit those notes. But, in the Walrus and the Carpenter, in the poem that Lennon is using, the Walrus and the Carpenter indeed cry. Why do they cry? They cry because they take a generation of young people, and these are characterized or symbolized as oysters, but we know they're people because they have legs and they can walk, and they're described as youth. And they kill them and eat every one of them. And then they cry because there is none left to eat. I'm crying. So again, if you just take the straightforward laying on the symbols as they are written in the sequence, you can see that Lennon he's crying because there is nothing left to kill. The Freemasons got them all captured and destroyed them all, just like occurred in I Am the Walrus. So that's just the basic structure of the Lennon song. It's an homage to Freemasonry. Some are of the events are cryptic. I'll give you one. I mean, a lot of them are just very straightforward. I have the analysis at Post-Slaviana. People want to read it, they can just go there and see it. But here's one that is kind of amusing. It's, sitting in an English garden waiting for the sun. If the sun don't come, you get your tan from standing in the English rain. Now, what does that mean? Well, as long as you know that you're dealing with Freemason homage to their victories, to their apocalypse that they bring to other groups, this is really easy to understand because it relates to the what's called the Easter Rising. And this is a very important point. I want people to know about this event because they should know about it because this is what we're facing in the future. The Easter Rising was an Irish rebellion against the British. It occurred on Easter Sunday. It was in a soccer stadium. The British attempted to have an Easter Sunday celebration. They're being Catholic. The British were not. Words were spoken. A riot occurred, and the British opened fire with automatic weapons. And this was the very first time a group of civilians had been mowed down with automatic weapons. So anyway, what is Lenin talking about? Well, an English garden, this is how Ireland was characterized, waiting for the sun. You see, it's Easter Sunday. They're waiting for the sun. If the sun don't come, well, this is the Freemason perspective on Christianity. Jesus doesn't come back from the dead. It's a myth. You get your tan, right? Well, this is the group that killed them. This would be the Black and Tan. That was the name of the Freemason outfit that mowed them down. You get your tan standing in the English rain. One of the newspapers described the rain of bullets as the English rain, you see. Okay. So sitting in an English garden, waiting for the sun to come. If the sun don't come, you get your tan standing in the English rain. And so this is, once you get the interpretive framework understood of this is homage to Freemason military victories, and the song is very easy to understand. And so if you want to just, a little visual representation, if you look at the I Am the Walrus that appeared in the Magical Mystery Tour, the Beatles are there with their animal masks on and they sing the song, and inserted into the screen, you have a little video that plays at the same time, and it's the atomic bomb going off. See, the apocalypse.
I got you.
Yeah, so it's like cuckoo, cuckoo, and that's a line from Joyce in a passage where he describes the four horsemen and the apocalypse of the Irish people. So, I mean, it's really, the I Am the Walrus song is just a vicious representation of Freemason victory over unsuspecting European populations.
Yeah, I mean, I was never a big Beatles fan, but I always thought it was just a fun song, but it's actually terrifying.
Yeah, this is typology. When you have an interpretive framework that is different than the reader assumes, the entire meaning can shift. But look at the song. You see, look how clever it is. With the song, the oligarchs can now represent their military victories, and communicate to one another without the common person having any idea that it's going on, right? In fact, the song is an insult to the stupidity of the people who are listening to the song and just listening to the gibberish lyrics and paying attention to it without understanding the symbolic meaning of the words.
Yeah, that's why. Precession of Ages, a brief summary of astrological ages. This is John Towers, and welcome to Red Horse Radio, the Abracast. You're probably like, hey, when did this get snuck in here? This isn't the exclusive show for RHR 188, and you're right, it's not. I used that to put a lot of funny outtakes and stuff from the show, but then as the week kind of crept by on me, I was like, that's not really what the exclusive show's for, and I felt bad. So I thought that I would go ahead and drop a bonus episode so you guys can get your weirdness for the week, right? And I could beg you for forgiveness. But I do hope you enjoyed the show. Anyways, but here, so this is going to be like a little bonus episode. I'm just going to slide it in. We're going to talk about astrological ages. It's something that's come up recently in the comic books. The Ages Gemini, which you can catch the first chapter of in webcomic form on the website, which you probably already know about. So what we're going to talk about here is the precession of the astrological ages. All right, so due to the Earth. God, let me start this over again. The tilted axis of the Earth causes it to slowly wobble as it rotates through space, and this slowly moves our planet's equinox across a changing background of stars. These stars include the signs of the zodiac. The equinox is in each of these astrological signs for roughly between 2,000 and 2,500 years. That is actually, for, you think it'd be something that we could like really measure and stuff, but the more and more reading I get on it, the wackier that number becomes. I've seen as up to 3,200 years, but we're going to stick to 250 because it's neat. It's okay. So anyways, each of these increments are called an age. And the cycle of all 12 signs of the zodiac takes about 25,760 to 25,960 years, and that's called the Great Year. Also, each of these ages parallels major changes in the development of the Earth and the Earth's inhabitants. That's us, folks. That's us. Mythologically and astrotheologically, these ages are coded, written, and crafted into our ancient stories, myths, and religions. Each of these ages is associated with heroes. As an example, each of these ages is associated with heroes from the Jewish Torah, the Jewish Apocrypha, the Christian Bible, and the Christian Apocrypha. And we're just going to talk about a few of these. The Age of Leo, which is the Golden Age. It's the creation of the habitable world, and it's associated with Jehovah or Yiv itself. Moving on to the Age of Cancer, which is the age of the Great Mother, birthing life, associated with Adam and Eve. The Age of Gemini. For those of you keeping up with the webcomic, you know it's the age of communication, trade, and the twins, associated with, guess who? Cain and Abel. The Age of Taurus. That's the age of the earth, agriculture. It's associated with the stubbornness of Noah, who built the ark despite ridicule and hardship. It's also, to a lesser degree, or a greater degree, I don't know. Let me think about that. Also, after the flood, it's associated with Noah's great-grandson, Nimrod, who was responsible for building the Tower of Babel, despite warnings from Yiv or Yehovah. The Age of Aries is the age of war and fire. It's associated with militaristic lawgiver Moses. Moses came down from Mount Sinai and saw the Hebrews reverting back to the older age of Taurus because they were burning offerings to a golden Apis bull or a lunar calf. And he destroyed... This is how... People think he's just a nice old dude with a stick and stuff, man, but Moses was a crazy motherfucker. He destroyed the idol, he ground it up, put it in water, and made his people drink it, and then he was like, you know what, that's not even good enough, killed 3,000 of these fuckers, and sent his soldiers in and killed 3,000 people just for the reversion. We're going on to the Age of Pisces, and that's the age of monotheism, deception, and fraud. It's associated with Jesus and, by extension, the Roman Empire. And then we're ending up where we are at the cusp of right now, ladies and gentlemen, which is the Age of Aquarius. It's the age of freedom. Chipotle. The Age of Aquarius' hero has yet to be revealed. Remember, though, it was Jesus himself who reportedly said in Luke 22:10, "As you enter the city, a man carrying a pitcher of water will meet you, and he will lead you to his house. Follow him." So, like I mentioned, the Precession ages is referenced and used in the ages Gemini. That project is going to actually focus on Gemini, Taurus, Aries, and Pisces. So there you go. There you guys have it. Nice, fun little show. Interesting. There's plenty of research out there on this stuff, and it's all fascinating. So check it out. In the meantime, this has been your bonus show. Next week, we're going to talk about... next week I'm going to tell you the story, which isn't really next week because the show's dropping late, right? So it's like in a few days. In a few days, I'm going to tell you guys the story of the drunken serpent in the Garden of Eden. And it's one of my favorites. It's not really a story, it's theory, some facts drunkenly lashed together and used for reference for a comic book. So take that as you want it. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in a few days.
Thank you for listening, and we hope that you enjoyed the show. Please send an email or find us on social media and let us know what you think about the show. We would appreciate it if you would give us a 5-star rate and review wherever you find your favorite podcasts. You can find Stigmata Studios, graphic, novels, and comic books at Abracast.com.